FOMC as we get ready to do what we do best, and that is take a look at the markets and do our best to stay on the right side of the most important trade that matters. Ooh, so many good memes over the days. I was thinking earlier today, by the way, this is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back, CTM. I was thinking one day, I got a text message from a broker, and the text message was, Bitcoin is doing Bitcoin things. I was like, how amazing. They had no idea that we coined that meme. And then it becomes famous when brokers start using it as a marketing tool. Absolutely beautiful stuff. There were some people asking in the comments yesterday if we would take a look at things like I'll call it from the old guard, from a couple of past cycles, XRP and Litecoin. So we're gonna incorporate that into today's session, which means that as I get into it and I start getting really focused, and we're covering right now Bitcoin, markets, MicroStrategy. If I get a little controversial, if I get caught up into the work that we're doing, someone make sure, please remind me. I want to make sure that we look at both Litecoin, XRP, and share some thoughts on those as best we can. I'm so happy to be here with you all today, but tomorrow we are traveling to be with and get with family for the holidays. We'll have no session tomorrow and Friday as well. The next time we'll be together will be on Monday. That will be December the 23rd, and we'll make sure that we have our session together. In the meantime, and I hope things don't often go, you have to be flexible. Things don't always go as you plan. My goal tomorrow, why flying, is to go ahead and take our dashboard with all of our strategy and scripts for both stocks and crypto, and then reorganize it, clean it up, as well as include the version numbers for each script. For example, this would be, it's right here. It might be confusing if someone didn't build this with us, right? And it'll say big buy and sell Bitcoin. That's BTC CTM, that's CTM 2.0. I'll make sure it's known. And then as you go down further over here on buy side only on Bitcoin, this is BTC 101. Obviously, you would not know that until you click on it, right? But it's a little bit easier. It'll be easier to find if I go ahead and label all these. And this one over here, this says BTC on the buy and sell side. That would be versions BTC 108 and 107. And then over here, I'll also include the performance video so that everyone has an idea to go ahead and dial in on where they want to be attacking from. And then the stocks, right? We have now CTM 2.0, and across the board, we don't trade CTM 2.0 on stocks, right? From January 2023, we're all using CTM X for stocks. So I'll go ahead and I don't want to, well, I'll just make a copy. Well, we have them all saved. I want to make it easy accessible, but I need to clean it up. So that's what I'm going to do. And that is my goal. Boom, boom, boom. Justin, thanks for go ahead and smashing the like button before we even get started. I really appreciate that. Every once in a while, I start seeing like the thumbs up flying, and I'm like, whoa. And it gets me just really geared up, and we get to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to just go ahead, Vakanet, and favorite that comment as we get into it, be able to bring that back up, take a look at it, and then we'll go. The 10-year, ooh, I mean, well, you can't be concerned. We could talk about being on the right side and at the right time. And it's, so first of all, like, this is when we were like, time to sell bonds. And this is on the 10-year. And this is like, time to close out the trade. Like, nice grab. We were like, I bet Stanley's still holding. I bet Stanley Druckenmiller's still holding. We were looking for and talking about in past cycles when the Fed had began cutting and bonds reacted as such. They were two previous cycles. Both of those cycles wound up, right around this point. I remember the date, how many days after. They each had a pullback, and then they took out their high. Now, one of them had a deeper pullback and it barely took out the high. The other one had a shorter pullback and it made a much more aggressive high. This pullback so far, it hasn't taken the high yet, has been pretty shallow. So it looks to me that there's a strong chance that it's going to be taking out the high. Now, this is where we said, exit, enter. Look at that, break even. And this was just exit. This was get neutral, get yourself protected. This was get back into the trade. If we see a breakdown of this line here, that would mean that this last entry selling bonds is exited. Now, I don't know. I can't predict the future, and I don't know what happens. And that's where most macro people just simply get it wrong. They're really, really, really great at afterwards explaining to you and articulating why everything happened. But in real time, they're very, very, very poor at being at the right on the right side at the right time. That's all I could say is being on the right side, and we continue to be on the right side, right? This was one of the best over here. This was short bonds, neutral, long, short bonds, in and out, flip-flopping back and forth, and then riding it, exiting here. And then shortly after, we had the double black diamond breakdown. And now we then were able to not take the trade, more or less, right? We just watched what happened until here, and this was the exit. But then we stayed neutral this whole time. We stayed neutral up until this point. Now, you can say, well, there was plenty of opportunity here. There was plenty of opportunity here. Okay, you can't nail everything. And when things are not like very clear, it's best to stay neutral. It's best to stay neutral and just wait until things in clarity. Jim Rogers used to talk about, I just wait until I see money on the other side of the room, and then I go pick it up. And that's, for me, that's that waiting portion, and waiting until right here the stars aligned. There's a nice, easy, I guess there's nothing easy about it, but a nice grab. So this chart, this is my chart. This is my chicken scratch that I use during the live streams. All of our strategies are available. All of our strategies, the charts that actually have, when we buy, when we sell, yada, yada, yada. All right, let me keep going. Let me get into it. I didn't even get started yet. And before we get started, before we get into it, I'm just looking here at this beautiful chart of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is beautiful. Bitcoin is beautiful. And I remember, or I pulled up this template, which I hadn't seen or looked at in the longest time. And when I say longest time, I mean like before we started doing our work. So this is at some point in 2022. And it's pretty cool to see. Yeah, this is like forward testing. And it's pretty cool to see the breakout, the retest, and then the resumption up on the breakout of the bull market. To get this line over here, all I did was clone this line and just bring it over here. It's the same exact angle. And by the way, this led to, ultimately, the work that we're doing, talk about chicken scratch. That I'm so excited about that chart, but I can't show it to you right now. So you've seen this chart over here, and you've seen my version of having the lines on it, and we put it all together. But more importantly, this line over here drew my attention. Again, I hadn't looked in this in a couple of years now. And the reason that this line drew my attention was because there was one thing of calling the bull market breakout at the right time back here on a live stream, CTM public live stream, back in the summer of 2020 on the break of this trend line. There was a good thing about making the bullish case for Bitcoin in this pocket over here, getting people really just onboarded onto Orange Coin and helping them understand the bullish case for Bitcoin at the right time. And over here, from a discretionary standpoint, I have a tweet over here saying there's blood in, but I wanted to be able to, from a more, I don't want to say mechanical, from a a more planned way to be able to get the bottom of this cycle, because this is good, but this is best. And I think that in seeing this line here this morning, and then remembering and seeing the work that we did in real time, go to the YouTube channel and go to December 2022 called the bull market breakout. And it's 17,250. Why sentiment was extremely negative, FTX blowing up. We were able to get as early as possible on the right side. I love checking back and seeing that over here. Today, we're looking at Bitcoin trading at $104,000. I have this range over here, this drawdown on Bitcoin. It's the largest drawdown of Bitcoin thus far this cycle, roughly 33%. We've had other drawdowns. Here it is over here at 33%, 32%. Prior to that drawdown, we've had a couple of 22% drawdowns. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, this should be 1, 2. We didn't make an all-time high, so or a new high, so it's a hard one. But we had a few 20% drawdowns, and then we put in the highest or largest drawdown to date thus far in this cycle, and that was nothing special. That was just a lot of consolidation, and that consolidation has obviously led to this leg up, and it looks good. And then if you look at that chart, that looks like upward accumulation is taking place to me. We'll get more into that in 1 second. But point here is drawdowns are expected. Thus far, the degree of drawdown in the bear market saw less volatility, as well. So far in the bull market run has seen less volatility. You could just compare the past cycles over here, and you could say, well, there was a lot of volatility in this cycle, some big drawdowns in the previous cycle, and ultimately they had the same drawdown, 85%. So I'm looking at this chart over here. Oh, they're not showing bear markets. We're showing corrections during the bull market phases. Okay. So during the bull market phases, it's very clearly notable that the downside drawdown was much greater in the last cycle than it was going back 2 cycles. We had things like the mid-cycle dip, which saw over a 50% correction. And we had the global lockdowns, which obviously saw a large correction. Had those things not happened, we still had some pretty deep corrections coming off of that run over here to June 2019, Bitcoin correcting 50%. And that was because we saw some problems in the financial system. That's and this point where my arrow is right now, where my cursor is actually where the Fed had to stop QT, and then they began organic, they called it, balance sheet expansion. The balance sheet started going the other way. Risk started responding. Equities melted up until we had global lockdowns over here. And in comparing this cycle to this other shallower cycle, say there's a lot of similarities in the price action as well. Look at this nice parallel. It's not parallel, but call it parallel with me. Look at that nice parallel. Like you can see that we're coming up here thus far. There's a lot of similarities, except the one difference is the drawdowns have been shallower. There were multiple 30% and 35% drawdowns in this cycle. This time so far, we're looking at 20% and 130%. So we are seeing diminished drawdowns. And I imagine that we're not going to see such a arc to the upside. Now, a lot of people think different, and everything's on the table. Samson Mao believes that we're going up to 500,000 overnight. He does, or even 1 million, but let's say 500,000. And that as soon as nation state adoption begins, that it's going to put a quick and sharp bid into Bitcoin. That could happen. Absolutely. We don't know. There is a chance if something like that happened and you're trading in and out of Bitcoin, that you're not in that trade at that time. Now, if it's a real and lasting mood, we'll be able to get in and take a piece out of it. Obviously, Bitcoin bull market runs will be there. These things could happen. Are these risks? Craig. The mid-cycle dip put a lot of fear and FUD out there, but there is no question. I remember the video in the summer of 2021 saying that Bitcoin was trading 30,000. By October, we're going to make a new all-time high. We nailed that. I think that was lucky in retrospect. That's beautiful. Noah, I love to know what a influence we've had on so many people out there and effect. And I got to hear a little bit of insider insight yesterday, and now you sharing that. I love it. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. I really value that a lot, because ultimately we're here to help as many people as possible live better lives. And Bitcoin and drawdowns is normal, and that consolidation looks awesome. And it looks like right now that we have that cylinder consolidation going on, and it reminds me of this on a lesser time frame. So let me jump down. Look at this. This is the bubble of the .com bubble and pop. And look at this upward cylinder that was taking place. You can see it over here during 1999. And it was just upward accumulation. And then it led to that boom, that exuberant pop. Look at this one, though. This seems to be at a sharper angle, more along the lines of what we're in here from 2023 bottom up until now, 2024 end. And that is that just nice channel of accumulation. Just so you could see it, and you know what I'm talking about. Let me just come over here and pick right there. So you can see it here. That looks very, very similar. Very similar and very, very healthy. It does remind me of what you saw down here as well. Look at that. Very, very, very good and very healthy. Had a nice big leg up out of that. We haven't experienced that yet, right? And then, so let me just show you. Let me just add a couple of lines over here, and then we'll get into MicroStrategy next. But hey, you know, we got to go with the flow, and we got to take the last. So this is the first one. I'm going to draw two channels, right? So this is one channel, but this channel kind of broke right here. And then we started a steeper ascent. So you can see like this channel, and that seems to be, I'll remove the first one now. The first one is, just make them different color there. So this seems to be the channel and the slope that we're into now. And this is where we started, right? You can see them together. And what would happen is, so I talked about, you know, the potential yesterday, I think, for my expectations on the Nasdaq if we were to see something like, right? I said, it's potential here. It looks to me, I know people are talking about recession. I don't think Bitcoin will act well in a recession unless there is actually real nation state bidding going on. Then we talked about that clearly in yesterday's session. If you didn't watch it, we don't have a session tomorrow. Go ahead and watch yesterday's stream. There's actually a bunch of videos. Click on the live tab, and there's a bunch of videos over the last few weeks with just immense discussions taking place. Highly, highly recommend it all. Is it possible by the end of 2025 we reach Nasdaq 30,000? Now, we also talked about in the past, S&P 500 3 times since 1928 has put up back-to-back years of 20% gains. This is the 4th time right now, 2023, 2025. We looked at what potentially could happen afterwards. And the truth is, nobody knows. All that we could do is continue to stay on the right side, even if we see something, regardless of what we see. So if, let's assume that Bitcoin, Nasdaq here, we see like a resurgence here of the semis. We start seeing throughout next year markets continuing the momentum they have, and even maybe Nasdaq being able to, towards the end of next year, print $30,000. Now, if that happens, I'm going to look around and I get it. I know people are looking for a recession right now. It could happen. we at any point in time, things begin to change. It's why we show up every day and put the work in. We're going to try to stay in front of it and navigate it. It doesn't look like that we're headed in that direction, but it could change and things could, the macro could change rapidly. The macro could change rapidly. I remember saying that to you all if you go back into July of 2020. I'm getting confused here. I think it was July of 2022. It was. And this is where we had that hot inflation print, or was it the summer of July 2021? I'm not exactly sure. But we had the 9.1 inflation print, and people were going bonkers on inflation. And then we looked at things together. We looked at prices of energy. We looked at prices of commodities, and we looked at prices of food. And I said, this is the turn. This is the turn, and it was the turn. And we couldn't have done it any more accurate. Now, people were not able to, in that moment, embrace it, and not until October, November, when not did it peak, but then it began rolling over, and the disinflation momentum really picked up. But in real time, we were right there and able to get it. And I hope that that continues. We have a really strong history of that. And a lot of people just, they check in every day because they know that if something were to occur, that usually we have a really good track record of being there. Um, if we are able to see a continuation, and then, which I have big dreams here. I would love to see I would love to see, and I think it's possible. This is a big ask here, a big ask to see a continuation of this bull move, not only into next year, but maybe even beyond that into 2026. I believe it has the possibility to happen. Again, we will pivot when needed to pivot. You saw us looking recently if there was any warning signs on the Nasdaq. We still have that to consider and watch. Let me jump back over here. And ultimately, we were talking about this channel we're in. I hope we don't break out sharply to the upside like this. Like, I hope that we don't break the current trend we're in, because why we're going to see likely higher prices quicker if we do. I don't know if the extent of the move will last as long. Let me give you a little taste of what I'm talking about, and then let me just come back over here and um, let's look at this. And this is just for me saying, look, ideally, in a dream, it could happen. I would love for it to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just, for illustration purposes, just simply taking this period over here, and I'm doing a bar pattern copy of it, and I'm extending it out, right? And I think that there's no question that some of us could really visualize, even in to the end of or the end of the first quarter 2025, Bitcoin trading above $150,000. I think that, we're consolidating here, make a leg up. That would be beautiful. But I'm just showing you what that might look like into the end of 2025. And yeah, I think that a lot of people could look at Bitcoin $220,000 and be like, by the end of next year, I could see that happening. I could see that. And all of that, if this is happening within this same channel, would be super bullish for me, from my perspective. And this is also, by the way, what it should look like as we enter the ultimate market opportunity. When I talk, there's still drawdowns, plenty of them. Look, we just had a 30% drawdown. We've had multiple 20% drawdowns. Would not be surprised. That should continue. And then if we were able to see into the end of 2026, a similar current. Now, that's dependent on a lot of factors. One of them is actually nation states joining the bid. I believe this is all, the premise of this is all on continued adoption in the S curve. It's how S curves work. And this is the way that I would give the highest probability to something like unfolding. Now let's first get past, this next year that we're entering. Let's watch for technical breakdowns, and let's continue to go ahead and monitor the situation, I'll say. Now, right now we're seeing we're not seeing a drawdown on Bitcoin at all, right? Bitcoin is looking super healthy. Bitcoin here off of the line that I thought was, and it could change. Today's a FOMC meeting. We could see, depending on what happens, a reaction from the market. I didn't think when we were in October that we'd break this red line over here. That was my highest end basically target for December. And I think earlier than I anticipated, we've broken above it. Not by much. I was saying the end of December. This is December 16th. Not a big deal, right? Pretty good from far away. And looks super healthy. Continues to look healthy. We're consolidating. Again, as long as we're above this line I'm highlighting, all of this consolidation is super, super healthy. If we were to break that, nothing's changed. At that point, then we would expect lower prices and maybe a little longer to recover. Nothing has changed whatsoever. And Bitcoin here coming off, right? Like, 4%, 5%. MicroStrategy's actually came off a little bit. And you can see that MicroStrategy has come off with what is a normal drawdown for MicroStrategy. And you can see it coming off 38%. And why Bitcoin has had multiple 20% drawdowns and a 30% drawdown. During that 30% drawdown over here, Microsoft pulled back 50%. Seems very reasonable that the drawdown is greater on MicroStrategy than Bitcoin, as it is a levered play on Bitcoin. And then we had obviously those 20% drawdowns and Microsoft pulling off 36% during them. Over here, we had another 22% drawdown and Microsoft pulled off 38% again. So it is weird. This Friday is the listing for MicroStrategy into the Nasdaq 100. Now, a lot of people I know have a lot of money in MicroStrategy. That a lot of people that I know have a lot of money in MicroStrategy. So we're just going to talk about MicroStrategy here, and without any emotion, we're just taking a look at the market. Everyone understands the bullish case for MicroStrategy. There's some people out there who have concerns that like doesn't feel right. I wonder if something's going to happen. And I don't know that any of us would be able to be ahead of it when it did. A lot of people think that even if it does unwind, that it's probably not happening for a long time. And if we see something like, for sure, something like, US starts taking a Bitcoin position, Japan follows, Brazil's on board, Russia joins the fray. And then we're hearing more and more countries talking about it. EU, Germany. Germany is part of the EU, but maybe they won't be in the future. Who knows? So you get the point, though, is that then like maybe this goes on for a lot longer than people expect. Maybe Michael Saylor, MIT graduate, is the greatest financial engineer in the world. And maybe is it the infinite money glitch? Who knows? I don't know, and you don't know. And if you have money invested in it, then this is just really important to look at and talk about. So is it weird that MicroStrategy just came off 38% as Bitcoin came off a few percent? Maybe, maybe not. I really don't know. At other times, Bitcoin has kind of peaked first. Like over here, Bitcoin peaks here, and then MicroStrategy makes a higher high. And at other times, it's different, where MicroStrategy peaks first, and then Bitcoin peaks days after. So I have no idea, honestly. I'm going to bring up something that I just want to bring to your attention, and some people might not like it. And look, again, there's no emotion involved here. We're just trying to protect ourselves at all points. Likely, again, the thought from those that really embrace MicroStrategy is either that he's found the infinite money glitch. And by the way, it's spreading. And this is, I think, has a lot to do with Saylor. And by the way, you saw another $493 million of inflows into Bitcoin yesterday, just from the ETFs alone. This is big money that continues to bid above 100,000 Bitcoin. You see over here that now there are 20 public companies hodling over 1,000 Bitcoin. And we continue to see a lot of these companies using the Sailor playbook, whether it's Metaplanet, whether it's Marathon, Riot, and they are raising money in the public markets to buy Bitcoin with. And I think that Michael has had that effect on people. And here we go, right? There should be, as generally what happens when a company is included in the S&P 500, there's the S&P 500 effect. And I know we're talking here about the Nasdaq 100, but same premise likely applies, that there is a lot of buying. That buying usually causes price then to go up. And then shortly after, whether it's days or weeks, it usually then reverts back to where it is. It's just called the S&P phenomenon. And it makes sense as a lot of indexes and funds are rebalanced to include the new inclusion. And this new money that's coming into MicroStrategy, I believe the idea is that it's going to be used then to raise more money and buy more Bitcoin. That's likely what happens. I know a lot of people right now who are seeing, that's not a small number to see price come off 38%. And as it came off 38%, most people I know that are invested are simply like, listen, it's okay. I'll ride it out, whatever it happens. I believe Bitcoin's going higher, and I believe MicroStrategy's going higher. And you know what? Like, the volatility is part of the game. And for some people, it might be their first rodeo, as so much as like their first drawdown. But a lot of people that have been invested in MicroStrategy have already been through 50% drawdown, right? So now they're like Bitcoiners, a little bit of battle tested. Like, if you've been through 2, 3 cycles in Bitcoin, like literally, you're never happy about a large drawdown, but you do become really, really detached. Um, and that likely plays effect at what happens here into MicroStrategy. And a lot of people do believe that, like, regardless of what happens, it's okay, it's going to come back. This is concerning. This is like a warning. This is like, if you are emotionally unstable, stop the stream here. I'm not trying to ruin anyone's day. I'm not trying to be an alarmist. And I'm just talking about things that are happening in the world and related to what we do. Really, it's no big deal. Like, and if it's a big deal to you, then just okay. Skip this one. It's all good. And I saw this tweet today, and it stood out to me. I wanted to share it with you. And the reason why, it's from Mark. I can't pronounce his last name. Cajotes. I remember I originally saw him with his farm in Northern California and all his chickens, and on a Real Vision interview in 2021. And he's a famous short seller, a famous short seller. And he's got a long and a good track record. And I remember Mark ahead of the FTX blowout calling it ahead. And this is the first tweet I found where he mentions Sam by name. And it's July, the summer of 2022. And then from then until the blowout, there are more and more and a lot of Mark saying this is not right, this is fraud. And other people were not, right? And we always talk about, hey, people have a track record of getting it right. Consult them as a point of view. You don't have to, not everyone has a perfect track record. And this is in October before the blow up. Lots coming in that fake FTX. Let's see what happens next. Dude, set up a chat, Raul, with me and Sam. It would be great. And sure enough, he was on the right side of that. And so when he said, like, whoa, what's going on here? Why is he calling Michael a fraudster? And I get, like, look, I'm with you. I know the respect that Bitcoiners have for Michael. So we're just talking about things. We're not emotional about it. All right. And so, and we're gonna say, so he says he's a fraudster, and well, what's he talking about? And I mean, obviously, some people might be, like in 2000, Saylor was charged by the SEC with fraudulently reporting MicroStrategy's financial results for the 2 years. They reached the settlement. You could see they had to pay Wall Street Journal $11 million to the SEC. And yeah, I mean, that happened. But guess what? People make mistakes and then people amend their lives. So like that's for sure. And maybe a mistake was, I don't know the particulars of what happened. And either which way, I think that's why he's calling him a fraudster. And I don't believe always a fraudster. I believe he could definitely change his ways. In this audio here, Michael is saying that this guy Sid is saying he's misrepresenting the nature of the debt risk to MicroStrategy. Because remember, let's listen to his own words. It's important, and this is just so we have our own knowledge, right? That we're not trying to say that Michael is bad. We're not saying Michael's a fraud. We're not saying Michael's a hero. We're not saying he's found the infinite money glitch. We're just looking at a developing story so that anyone, and I know a lot of people who have a lot of money invested in MicroStrategy, are able then to continue to navigate their position. That's all. 0 FUD. 0 like we're not trying to hype anything.
Understood. People think it's debt. It's convertible debt. It's unsecured. No recourse. What that means, Ron, is that
so it's unsecured debt. He's saying there's no recourse. This is a interview. It sounds like crypto banter, maybe someone else could help me. I'm not sure, but this is a recent interview, and he's saying
it's very misunderstood. People think it's debt. It's convertible debt. It's unsecured. No recourse.
No recourse. It's convertible debt. And that's not true. This is coming from Form 10Q, MicroStrategy, SEC. And if you go to line 5, it says the date of holder put option represents the respective dates upon which holders of the 2028 convertible notes, 2031, 2032, each have a non-contingent right to require the company to repurchase for cash all or any portion of their respective notes at a repurchase price equal to 100% of the principal amount. And if you go forward over here and you look, you see, look, the bonds are redeemable for cash or the stated number of shares. But in his example, in Michael's example, he's saying, let's finish listening to Michael and then we'll come back and then we'll finish the rest. But let's hear what Michael says.
What that means, Ron, is that Bitcoin could go from $100,000 to $1,000. The debt's not getting called. There is no recourse. Bitcoin can go to $1. You see, Bitcoin can literally go to 1 penny. The debt doesn't have, there's no call feature. And so it's
so now first he said that it's not debt and there's no recourse, and now he's saying there's no call feature. Maybe he doesn't understand. Or maybe he's like a lot of people think that he will be known for future generations as the most advanced financial architect that ever was. Either one of those things could be true. I have no idea what happens. Either one of those things could be true, I suppose.
It's like basically someone loans you billions of dollars and you agree that in 5 years you will either pay them back in cash or in stock. But you know what happened is if Bitcoin crashed by 75%, the stock would trade down. We would just pay off the debt with stock. So the risk isn't in the debt so much as it's in the equity.
Well, so this is a little better. Now he's saying, like, listen, worst case scenario, likely we just have to pay in stock, or we have to pay, but you have to pay. He's saying there's no recourse. There's actual real recourse. So maybe he wasn't clear. I think in the coming days or weeks, he'll probably clarify this, and then we could just all move on. But until it's clarified, I think that it's probably important to be, just talking about it. But it's not just stock, because that footnote that we just looked at over here, footnote 5, it does say cash, right? Footnote 5, And it says for cash, company to repurchase for cash, all or any portion. So again, it's not just stock, it could be cash. And he says, somehow he's saying the exact opposite, which I agree that it feels like a material misrepresentation. Points to footnote 5 and it says, you're right, for all the recent issuances, as we looked at, the ones that are due from 2028 through 2032. So listen, that's it. And that's all. There's no opinion here. We're just pointing out facts in case anyone who was not paying attention that has a lot of money invested in MicroStrategy. Because I know a lot of people that have a lot of money invested in MicroStrategy. And I think most people think, and I certainly hope so, that what happens next is that Bitcoin continues to go higher. Maybe even nation states begin to start taking positions, putting in a floor. And don't forget, why things are going up, they're like, there's a saying that like you find out who's not wearing shorts when the tide goes out. But why the tide is rising a lot more, you get away with a lot more, which is why some people think, hey, listen, each and every raise puts MicroStrategy in a weaker position, but likely there's a long time before this unwinds badly for them. And that's probably the case. And I imagine that's the case, but we just don't know. And we're just having a healthy conversation. Most people think that what happens next is that we see an inflow into MicroStrategy share price, and then that giving the ability for Saylor to continue to raise new money and will continue banging out the bid on Bitcoin. That's the base case, I think, for most. And then the second base case is that even if MicroStrategy trades off further and for longer, they're just going to ride the rodeo. Just going to ride the rodeo. I got Mary. By the way, thank you so much. On Thursday, hopefully I have the presence about me to really just, as we're together, wish you all and your families and everyone that you touch in your life really, really, really full. Every blessing, every blessing. Well, it doesn't matter. So they don't have to wait for expiry. That basically he said there's no call, and that could be called that on the new issuances. It could be called at any time. So I mean, look, I don't think it's a misrepresentation of what it is. It doesn't mean that that was done willfully. He might just be confused about the products he's offering and selling, or someone else is confused. Who knows? Like I don't have the answer, and that's it. We're just taking a look at it. Just to clarify over here, so we're on the same page, and go back to footnote 5, and it says, bum bum bum. I don't. It doesn't say where. Michelle, your eyes on this as well. Notes have a non-contingent right to require the company to repurchase for cash or any of the portion of their respected notes at a repurchase price equal to 100% of such notes to be repurchased, plus any accrued unpaid interest, but excluding the repurchase date. I don't see here what we're looking at where it says in the table. Bum, bum, bum. Looking at the dates, convertible at any time after the following date. Okay, so we have, it says after the following date. So that's before they mature, they are convertible, not redeemable by the company prior to the following date. So I'm not sure. The breakdown line for which? For MicroStrategy? Oof. So let's get exact. I didn't mean to. The date of holder put option. So this is before, right? Michelle, you tell me, right? So convert 2028 anytime after September 2027. This one is 2030 anytime after September 2028. This one is 2031 anytime after September 2028. So not immediately, but there is a window here before the expiration where it becomes where where it does actually become redeemable. I mean, I guess one of my potential worries is that the more companies that begin to actually raise money and purchase Bitcoin, does that dilute MicroStrategy's NAV and therefore the stock price? I think so. I don't know. These are just potential risks that we're talking. I want to take a look at this really quick right now. And Ace wanted to take a look at the breakdown line. And it seems that we're well above it right now. I'm so sorry. We got an emergency. Just give me 15 seconds. And we're back. So we wanted to look at what it was for a potential breakdown. And so this would be definitely, and we're holding support right now, the sign of a breakdown. I don't know the structure here. I don't know if this is structure, I should say. And I'm just kind of going off the lows over here. So you have this low, pierced here, but we had the lower support and pierced here. So this one would be like an early warning sign. This would be a sell impulse. If this was to happen, that would suggest that likely we're to see a further pullback. Now, as soon as you have that trigger, what you do is look for then the repair, which would be this. And we would have this line up over here once that were to happen, and we would say, okay, now we're looking for a repair, which means that you could have something very like a breakdown, and then it's just a liquidity grab, and then you shoot upwards. That could easily happen. Or you could have a breakdown, and it could be some time before you take out that repair. So I think that's a good place to be looking, Ace. Good awareness, and it's just coiling here, getting ready to break out either which way. And maybe that's dependent on what happens with Bitcoin. Maybe it's depending on what type of flows come in. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation out there. It seems to me that lately there's been a this is just my view of someone not following closely, so take it for what it's worth. It seems that Michael has been a little bit of like FOMOing, and maybe he believes that the US is about to take a position in Bitcoin, and he's trying to get as much Bitcoin as possible before that happens. That makes a lot of sense. That could be it. It seems like that's happening. Or as he's seen the price of MicroStrategy go up, the price of Bitcoin go up, as he went from a position of being underwater throughout 2022 and into the beginning of 2023. Maybe he's feeling a little bit of there's a reason why the meme stay humble and stack sats. And a lot of people are making the observation that in recent interviews he seems very red-faced and animated, and I don't know. I mean, it seems to me if we do see a Bitcoin reserve announcement or position by the US, a big position out of an executive order, that would likely be very bullish for Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. All right. So I hope that we didn't ruffle any feathers. I was not trying to ruffle any feathers whatsoever. And we're just making notes here. And we're just pointing to someone, Mark, who legitimately has a history of spotting things that are not right and calling them out ahead of time. We don't know that Mark is right either. I'm sure he's gotten some calls wrong. He has gotten a lot right, and that's all. That's all. That's right. I mean, maybe. But this is his plan though. His Michael said a long time ago, and it's true. Like, I'm always going to be buying the all-time high and the local high. That's their plan. He did say that, I don't know, like he talked about how they make money when the price is coming down. And anyway, that's enough for us today. And I think that's fun because I wanted to talk about also a little bit of the altcoins and take a look at what's going on. If you remember, recently we did an altcoin video, and we were talking about how the top 50 and how they were performing versus Bitcoin in the last 90 days. And let's go ahead and just revisit this since October. And you can see that most everything here in the top 50 at this particular point in time is outperforming Bitcoin. And then when you get to the top 12 or 15, they're outperforming Bitcoin by a large margin. H bar, right? Is that going to be the next ETF? I've heard talk that there's a strong chance that the next ETF, spot ETF, will be H bar, being a, well, I don't want to get into the legality. Who knows with the SEC, but maybe that's why it's pumping right now. Not sure. Oof. Thank you guys. Just trying to, as we do, put a unique and different spin on all of this, trying to keep ourselves on the right side. I looked at also the alts since 2021. In January 2021, these were the top 50 alts. And you could see, and I think this is important. Since that time, look at Dogecoin. How amazing that Dogecoin continues to outperform Bitcoin. Insanity. And we've talked about super sound money and how it's kind of irrelevant when you factor in Dogecoin, which has an inflation rate of almost 4%, 3.8% a year. Um, Nevertheless, maybe Dogecoin becomes the next Bitcoin. Everyone, this is why alt started in the first place. When alt speculation first began, people were genuinely looking for what was going to be the next Bitcoin. Today, I don't think people are trying to replace or even think it's possible to replace Bitcoin. Now, there are a lot of altcoin projects out there that are nothing but vapor, and there are a lot out there that are looking to solve real world problems with really innovative technology. And anyone that has any place of a real world use case, obviously there's a place for it in this digital age that we're in. Maybe Dogecoin is the only one I know of that potentially could become or replace Bitcoin. You guys are going to blow your minds, but we're not getting into that or talk. I heard a video. I had never found it before. I heard an interview with Elon, and Elon believes that when his technology is advanced enough, which it's not now, but figure maybe like at some point in the future, Starlink's capacity is like lightning, like literally speed of sound downloads and uploads. And I'm just talking figuratively here. That's obviously not going to happen, but highly advanced compared to what it is now. He believes that he could build a better Bitcoin. I heard him say it. And if he were to do that, just because the funniest outcome is the most likely, I bet you he would do that on Doge. That's my own complete conjure and speculation, and who knows. Now, obviously, you all know my feelings on Bitcoin, so I could say that I could speak freely. It wasn't a So Litecoin, right? So where is Litecoin? Litecoin was in the top 50 at that particular juncture, and it's nowhere to be found. Hold on, let me come back to 2021. Let's try this. trying to get a point here where a lot of these coins were outperforming Bitcoin by a lot. I'm looking for Litecoin to pop up on our screen, but it's not. And you can say, well, that's because Litecoin was so 2017, and I would say, oh, well, maybe it's not in the top 50. So I found a place over here where most of these coins in the top 50 from 2021 are outperforming Bitcoin. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. The top 50 that we look at today, when you fast forward 3 years, how many of them do you think are going to be outperforming Bitcoin 3 years from now? So let me just zoom in again. Take a look at 2021 till today. Don't worry, we're going to get into XRP and we'll get into Litecoin. I'm just setting the stage. So there we are. As of 2021, from those top 50, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 coins that are outperforming Bitcoin, and Doge is obliterating it, as well as BNB. XRP is above it. Look at that. I mean, Ethereum Classic, weird if you ask me. Cardano, weird, but Cardano and Bitcoin are basically even from that point that we're looking at. They're basically even. So you could say, well, that's not bad. 8 out of the 50 are outperforming, and 2 of them by a really strong margin, right? To like Doge and BNB. So what happens if you were to take, like, for example, of the top 50 altcoins today, and you were to take a position? Let's say you had $50,000 and you put $1,000 into each one of them. Maybe 3 years from now, or 4 years from now, maybe 1 or 2 of them have had such a return to make up for all the rest, regardless of what happens. And then you have a few outperforming, and it would, think of it like a venture capitalist, how they invest in startups. And they expect that 93% of these startups are going to fail. And that from the other 7%, they'll be able to make up that loss plus more. Now, here you have a bit of an advantage, is that you're actually focusing in on, out of 10, 20,000 altcoins, you're focused in on the top 50 by market cap. So that's an advantage as far as, maybe which one is going to have staying power. And then there's also the thought out there we were talking about yesterday. Charles, the founder of Cardano, he believes over the next 12 to 18 months that the price of Bitcoin is going to rise substantially, and that the smart contracts on Bitcoin are going to eat all of DeFi. I mean, that's Charles Hopkins. That's what he said. We looked at that together. I have the video when everyone wants to hear it at any time.
Ethereum
pulled up over here. Let's see if I get to the right timestamp.
The revelation of this, and after reviewing the technology, realizing that it actually has a path to work, reinvigorated my love of the ecosystem, because Bitcoin went from a sleeping giant never to awaken in an innovation coma to an awakened giant that is 4 times the size of Solana and Ethereum combined. Reality is that should these floodgates open, it is my belief that DeFi and the Bitcoin ecosystem will eclipse DeFi and all ecosystems in the cryptocurrency industry within 24 months.
Okay, so I got a couple of things wrong. That was pretty good though, right? I just went to that video and I found the exact spot. That wasn't queued up over there. That was pretty good. But he said should. He didn't say will. He said it should. And he didn't say 12 to 18 months. He said 24 months. So I just want clarity. And I think we all do that all the time, is we hear things and we're for sure we got it right, but we don't. And I think that's important to know. So, but very bullish remarks. I want to look from this period over here of January 2024, and I just want to just get a read on what was happening there as well, because we just looked at who was outperforming Bitcoin. Doge is still destroying Bitcoin. BNB is still destroying Bitcoin. But notice that only OKB is like TRX and ETC. How is Ethereum Classic doing so well? I don't know, but they have the same in return. So interesting. So I think that's super interesting. All of that. I hope you do too. Let's move over and let's talk about what's happening here with XRP, Litecoin, and obviously XRP. People say, well, it's not really moving. Well, it's moving now. It just had this massive, massive, massive pump. And so far is consolidating that pump pretty well. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's get the bigger look over here. I remember XRP when it came out of nowhere, and by so many of my friends were invested in this thing. So many of my friends that were not even prior into Bitcoin and crypto, like they for whatever reason, they were buying XRP and they were buying it around 50 cents, 30 to 50 cents. And then they saw it I remember that December just completely shoot up like crazy. None of them took profits up there, but that's a bit that I thought that was an amazing move. We just kind of did close to that 400% up, I guess from the high there to that peak. And look at that. And then it was dead in the water for a long time. And if you remember, because I remember very clearly, in this area right over here, warning people that listen, this is not going to be good as the SEC begins their lawsuit. And then after the lawsuit, I said, if you're one to speculate, this might be a good time, or it might be anyway, whenever that happened, it might be over here. But you all remember who are here, and a lot of you have been here the whole time. But now that's all behind them. And as Bitcoin here and the rising tide that lifts all boats is running, all of a sudden XRP is back in the picture. I've never been a fan of XRP. It's one of the few assets that within CTM we're not able to really find a solution for. It's very difficult, and it's the nature of these large chart moves, right? I call it rips, and then Ripple, the company, distributes into the rips. Is that what happened up here, or is this normal price behavior? I don't know. I know so many people who continue to be really, really bullish on the future of XRP. Some people have really high expectations. Other people right now are riding a good trade. They held out, and it's not only recovered, it seems to be going well. Look, all I can say is there are lots of options out there. For example, right now you have like a lot of those within CTM are focused in on basket. And if you look at these, right, let me go to log. You see the nature left and to the right, left and to the right. Hopefully up and to the right, right? But nice moves here, like offers plenty of opportunity that we're able, not like the nature of Ripple. These are moves that we're able to actually get into and profit off of on both sides. Obviously, Bitcoin, right? Up and to the right. You have Polygon, a lot like the nature of Matic that we just looked at, of Avix that we just looked at, but again, tradable, unlike Bitcoin. Cardano on both sides gives us ample, healthy gains. And then for fun, even like throwing in now some meme coins, but things that are tradable, that have a high probability. And of course, that's because the nature of the way that we approach the markets from a mechanical way, offering us the opportunity. Speaking of which, Bo, let me just check in really quick and mention that like BTC 108 took profits, as well as did CTM 2.0. Both of them exiting that last trade out of the market. Just a small gain, a nice gain, 3%. The average trade is 1.89 cents. The average winning trade, though, let's see what the average on 108 is. So average winning trade is 6.9%. So it wasn't even, I don't know when this is going back to, not too far. See if that changes from 2020. That's good. It's like, let's look just from 2021. Let's look at recent price behavior. We'll see what the average trades are. So the average winning trade is 6.5%. This trade was a little under the average winning trade. That's all. Jumping back. And when we talk about things like XRP, it has these long consolidations and then sharp moves that we're not able to get in. For us, it's not something that we've really yet been able to take advantage of. And that's it. I don't know what the future holds for XRP. I think that I want to check with you together while we're doing this. So speaking of the tilt, I just want to see the total supply. Max supply is 100 billion. Total supply is at the 100 billion. Oh no, circulating supply is only 57 billion, so half of that supply. And I don't know that if this is correct, but I imagine it is. How much of the supply does the company Ripple own? I imagine it's very, very, very large. Let's find out. There it is. The other, we just said that, you know, there it is, the rest of the supply. That is a lot. And that's a lot. That's my concern. It's their business model to sell XRP in the open market to fund their company. They own a lot of that supply, and that I just don't like the dynamics, the tokenomics, if you will. And I don't think it's favorable, so it's not something that I'm interested in. If you're interested in it and you're holding it and you're holding this long, I'm so glad that it's come back towards an all-time high. And in this next bull market, if Bitcoin continues to be the rising tide, it should lift all boats. I would just be wary about that. What about Litecoin? Litecoin also is just one of the few that really has not been attractive, and the solutions that we key off are so ridiculously attractive that although I'm sure we could come up with a strategy solution, you know, just overlaying our strategies on Litecoin that could produce returns that like would outperform the best money managers from 2020 to present, or 2017 to present, and easily, or from 2021 to present. However, it's just not something that fits our. I remember the use case for Litecoin, or the meme for Litecoin in the past was, you know what? It's silver to gold. I don't hear that anymore. It's obviously not. There's a lot more exciting things out there. I then heard that, well, it's the test net for Bitcoin, as are all altcoins. Like, at least from the point of view of a Bitcoiner, is that, look, all the altcoins are out there and they're kind of like experimenting, and then ultimately anything that's built on an altcoin could be incorporated into Bitcoin if we want to. And whether you agree with that or not, the founder of Cardano was just saying that. He was literally just saying that Bitcoin was a sleeping giant, and now all of a sudden the innovation on the chain is waking up, and he thinks that there's a good chance within the next 2 years it eclipses all of DeFi. So there's that, right? And so I don't know really the use case for Litecoin. It used to be for faster, cheaper payments, but now you have like Tron for that. So I don't really know or see the thing, or the bullish case for Litecoin. Now, maybe at one point or another, a privacy layer is introduced on Litecoin and it becomes a privacy coin. That might increase its use case, I suppose. I think the founder sold out completely. I forget though. I don't know if that's true or not. But the founder of Doge did as well, as far as we know, and that hasn't affected it. What's the relationship between Litecoin and Doge? And the reason I ask is because if 10 years from now Doge becomes the next Bitcoin, they're mined together. I hope that if you're invested here, a lot of people that I know for the past 4 years have had really high expectations of Litecoin. They have not come to fruition. If you look at a lot of like the perma bulls on Bitcoin, a lot of them have all really embraced Litecoin, and they all have had enormous expectations. Not one of them has ever come to fruition. It looks here that you can make the case that, well, are we consolidating? I guess, do we have a warning line? I can't draw a trend line like that would work. So I don't see it. I wonder. See, that's a pretty good trend line. And you can say, well, we wick down below here. And I would say, well, that's true. But that's how I would do it. And it's not clean, but it's true. And now I would say, well, we made a repair here, and that repair is kind of still in play. We've never taken out the low. This is the trend line that I would look right here. Oh, it should be like this. So if you know my chicken scratch, you know what I'm doing and why. And that's all. And if you don't, you're learning. That's all I could say. So this was bad, right? This is a buy impulse that's in effect. It's still holding. If we break this line, I would be very concerned. That's the best I could get on Litecoin. From obviously zoomed out here perspective. I'm not trying to like, obviously, if you were looking to get the last impulse that occurred, you'd be looking at like something like that. And that right there at 64 was the bot. And it's very easy. But you all get the point. Wanted to look at FET. Ooh, Artificial Intelligence Alliance. Look at this thing. Since the 2023 bull market breakout, right? And it's hard here with this big wick over here. Obviously hindsight, but you all know how these things work. And you can see this is stopped out, right? This is stopped out horizontally, but like this is the way to do it. So you're stopped out right here. When you're stopped out, right? No big deal. Small loss, dink to dink. And then you're riding in here again. That's the breakout, massive breakout. You've had really crazy moves, nice consolidation. Very easy to do. 1.0. Very good on alts. That's a tough one because the breakout's here, and you can see it rides all the way down. Never a stop out though. You could, like, that would be the stop loss. This is late. This is always early. I wonder if it's the same angle. Nope. You could use a set angle. There is a set angle. I don't know what it is yet. We don't have time for that. One day we will. Refine that art. And then another sharp move, and then another beautiful consolidation, obviously. And likely, if you were aggressive on that, I could see like someone taking this entry, getting stopped out, taking this entry. It's the lowest risk to reward. This seems like a lot of opportunity. It seems very, very tradable. It seems like a really good pair to be honed in on. I don't know what its market cap is. So it's number 40. It's in the top 50. It's looking at on Binance 24 hour volume 63 million, which is a little low. It's not terrible. I don't know if people within CTM could kind of be focused in on that together. Obviously and clearly, it looks like it's a market cap that's growing. You could see over here is this where you're looking for the next breakdown to occur. Like that's where you'd be worried. If you're not into the position right now, it looks aggressive, but that would be a break. And again, if you're stopped out on this, if this breaks to the upside, you take this if you're stopped out because it's an aggressive angle. I wouldn't be surprised. Look at these angles are much more. This is an aggressive one. If you're stopped out, you're managing your risk from a very, very, very tight standpoint. You're then able to look for the next entry. Breakdown over here, then that would be suggesting a bigger correction is in store. All right, we'll leave it at that. Everyone, have a beautiful day. I won't see you tomorrow. I won't see you on Friday. I won't see you on Monday. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you a lot. But I'm going to try to get that work done on the dashboard, and then we'll be back at it Monday together. Enjoyed this extended session today. We'll continue at it. Everyone, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. God bless you, and I'll see you all soon.